My in-laws stormed out of the ceremony, but my husband didn't invite his parents. My mother-in-law also yelled at me on my wedding day. "You dishwasher, how did you enter my son's life?" She disrespected my family as well. I urged her to stop talking because I was ashamed. She came over to me and grabbed my hair violently in her rage, which made me fall to the ground. Everyone was taken aback. My mother-in-law was dragged back by my husband, who then asked her to leave the gathering. With my friend's assistance, I decided to exact revenge. The following day, I surprised them with something startling. This is my life story of love, treachery, and justice. My name is Anna Walker. At the age of 29, I am a law student. However, that was not long ago. In Los Angeles, California, I worked as a dishwasher in a neighborhood eatery. I never imagined that I would discover love in such a mundane setting, yet that is precisely where my narrative starts. Ethan Brooks entered the diner for the first time on a soggy afternoon. In the rear, I had been cleaning dishes, attempting to block out the noises of the grill sizzling and plates clattering. However, I noticed him when I went outside to refill a coffee pot. Ethan had a natural smile that could brighten even the gloomiest of days, and he was tall and had dark hair. I experienced an unanticipated flutter in my tummy and an odd, warm rush. "Is there anything I can get you?" I attempted to sound professional, but my voice trailed down a bit. With his eyes fixed on mine, he said, "Just coffee for now, black, please." He might even offer me your phone number if you're not too busy. I grinned at his foolishness, my cheeks flushing. "I'm sorry, but I don't give clients my phone number. I'll just have to come back every day until you decide differently per corporate policy." And he grinned as he did just that. He was there every day for 2 weeks. At first, it was just coffee and light conversation. He was friendly and interested in my life, so I started to look forward to our talks. There was something special about him that made me feel recognized. Finally, after 2 weeks of his persistent charm, all right, I accepted his invitation to go out. I said I was trying to sound casual on a date, so don't have high expectations. Mr. Brooks, that one date turned into 6 months of pure bliss. On several evenings, we laughed over inexpensive takeout, strolled along the shore, and dreamt about the future. Ethan was unlike anyone I had ever met. He didn't care that I worked as a dishwasher. He appreciated me for who I was, not because of my circumstances. But as our relationship deepened, I began to fear what would occur when he introduced me to his family. I was worried that Ethan's parents would view me less favorably due to my job and my modest background because he was well off. "What if they don't like me?" I asked him one evening as we sat on the couch and watched the rain outside. "They will love you. They just need to get to know you." He soothed me, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. One evening, we commemorated our 6-month anniversary. Ethan made a proposal that surprised me. He took me to our favorite spot, close to the shore, where the moon was shining on the water's surface. "Anna," he asserted that his voice was emotional despite being studied. "Do you intend to marry me?" I was unable to talk. I nodded, breathing heavily, tears welling up in my eyes. Yes, 1,000 times. Yes, at the beginning of our wedding planning. I was anxious and delighted to meet his folks. Catherine, Henry, and Brooks. Although I knew they had a successful import-export business, I had no idea how harsh their decision would be. Finally, the moment has come for me to meet them. As soon as I walked into the lavish restaurant where we were all assembled, I felt unimportant. What mattered most was the Brooks family. No, I wasn't. Wealthy, intelligent, and powerful. Henry was large and had a grim expression, while Catherine was sharply elegant and looked at me as if I were a specimen under a microscope. "Ethan tells us you're a dishwasher," Catherine asked in a scornful tone. "Yes, Seth," I replied, trying to look tall. "I'm working at the diner while I finish my legal studies." Henry chuckled. "That's very ambitious for someone in your position." I could see my heart was pounding. "I'm determined to make something of myself." I attempted to justify myself, but it just became worse. The night was filled with judgmental glances and ill-veiled charges. Then, as we walked away, I looked at Ethan. "They don't like me," I mumbled, my heart sinking. "It doesn't matter. I treasure you, Anna. That's all that matters," he declared. But he was clearly stressed. However, things heated up abruptly. Ethan and I decided to have a small wedding with no family and just our closest friends. I was both relieved and worried about what would happen if his parents found out on the day of our wedding. I was about to walk down the aisle when the doors suddenly opened. Catherine was standing there with Henry. Their features were filled with anger. "What are you doing?" When Henry shouted, everyone became silent. Catherine stepped forward, her voice as cold as ice. "You cannot marry her. She's a gold digger, Ethan. Take a look." I was so embarrassed that my cheeks burned. "Please just give us our day," I begged, trying not to panic, but Catherine wouldn't listen. "You think that this poor girl might make you happy? She will just draw you down." My pulse was racing as I stood there with tears stinging my eyes. I tried to defend myself by speaking up before I could say anything else. Catherine flung herself in my direction. She tugged my hair violently and I fell on the ground in embarrassment. There were gasps around the room. Ethan rushed forward and stepped away from her, anger blazing in his eyes. He shouted and pulled his mother back. "You have no right to disrespect her like this." At that moment, I realized how serious the issue was. We were all startled when Henry and Catherine stormed out on the day of my wedding, which was supposed to be a happy occasion, but instead turned into a battleground. A rush of anger and devastation washed over me. The wedding ceremony had been ruined, but I wouldn't let them have the last word. I lost my heart. I refused to let this humiliation define me. The Brooks family needed me to prove I was more than a dishwasher. I was willing to do whatever it took to regain my honor. After the disaster, that was the day I got married. Everything felt shattered. I could see that Ethan had changed, even though we still needed to reestablish our connection. We tried to move on, but it wasn't easy because of the humiliation that remained between us. When we arrived home that night, Ethan's face was marred with worry, and I could see it. "I'm so sorry, Anna," he said regretfully. "I never thought they would show up like that. It's not your fault." But I answered, even though my heart ached with humiliation. I couldn't just forget what had happened. "They think I am nothing because of what I have done in my past." Ethan took hold of my hands. "That is only a small part of who you are. What I love most about you is not what you do, but who you are. We'll figure this out together." Despite his guarantee, I was unable to control the anger that was growing within me. I've been pushed to the ground in front of everyone, and my dignity has been stolen. To make them answerable for how they treated me, I had to act. In the days following the nuptial, I got in touch with Mason Grant, a classmate from law school. I knew he would understand my devotion because he had always pushed me to achieve my objectives. "Anna, it's been too long." Mason said such things. "When we met in a coffee shop, what was going on? You seem to have been in a conflict." I took a big breath to gather my thoughts. "Mason, I need your help. Ethan's parents publicly humiliated me at our wedding. I want to expose their deceit. Everyone should view themselves for who they really are, in my opinion." He arched an eyebrow in curiosity. "What's on your mind?" I explained my plan to investigate Henry and Catherine's import-export business. I had heard allegations about dubious behavior, but I had no concrete evidence. "I want to show the world that their money comes from illegal sources." My resolve was clear, I said. Mason nodded his head sternly. "I can help you with it. Let's gather some information and see what we can find." We spent weeks looking into the Brooks family business. I spent the evenings gathering data and doing research. The Brooks company was not as clean as Mason represented, even though he had connections in the industry. Rumors of unregistered cargo and tax evasion circulated, but we needed proof. One afternoon, Mason came upon an important fact while looking through public documents. With a gesture toward his laptop screen, he said, "Anna looked at this. There has been an investigation into their potential involvement in tax fraud. If we can get enough evidence, we might be able to topple them. Anxiety and exhaustion were coursing through my veins. Mason is the location. We have to do more research as we proceed. A sense of empowerment started to grow within me. I wasn't the shy diner worker anymore. I had a purpose as a lady, determined to reclaim my dignity and fight back against the discrimination I experienced. Every piece of information we acquired acted as a launching pad for justice. Ethan, on the other hand, was supportive yet worried about the risks. Anna, I appreciate your zeal, but are you sure you want to go through with this? It could blow up in your face. He told me I had to do this one night. Ethan, I can't let them treat me like I'm worthless. He nodded, but when I responded calmly, I could see the concern in his eyes. Just be careful. The last thing I want is to lose this fight with you. Weeks turned into months as we meticulously prepared our case against the Brooks family. I went through documents, looked at financial data, and even had conversations with former employees who had left for dubious reasons. With every single bit of information, I became more determined. It felt to me like a warrior preparing for battle. Then, just when I thought we had enough evidence to proceed, we hit a snag. Mason called me one evening. His voice was tight. Anna, I recently discovered some unsettling facts. The Brooks family is aware that an investigation is underway into their company. They will not remain silent in light of this. My heart leaped. What do you say? Their goal has been to learn more about you. They might try to frighten you. Or, he warned, far worse. I was afraid, but I refused to give up. Let them come. I will not be coerced into silence. As time went on, I realized the conflict was about more than revenge. Standing up for my rights, proving my worth, and showing the world I would not be a victim was everything. I went from dishwasher to someone who could fight strong opponents with Ethan. Whatever lay ahead, I was ready to face it. But I knew we were going to get into trouble. The Brooks family was very powerful, and I was just a lady with a dream. I didn't know that the experience I was going to have would change my life forever. The anxiety was palpable as Mason and I prepared to take the next step against the Brooks family. I was aware that we needed to proceed cautiously, despite the overwhelming evidence against Henry and Catherine's import-export business. With the stakes so high, I could feel the weight of our plan bearing down on me. Anna, are you sure you're ready for this? Mason asked me one evening while we were sitting in my small apartment. I must be a map of a battlefield, with papers strewn across the table. I replied, I'm unwavering in my determination to prevent their illegal actions from ruining lives. The time has come for them to be authentic. Mason gave a nod, but his expression was one of concern. Okay, let's make sure everything is configured. Once we go public with our plan in place, there is no turning back. We decided to contact a local news outlet that specializes in conducting investigations. We chatted with seasoned journalist Samantha Reed, who is known for her relentless pursuit of the truth. We sat in a small meeting room. I felt a mix of exhilaration and nervousness. Tell me everything. Samantha claimed that her pen was resting on top of her notebook. I took a deep breath and began to recount what had happened before our investigation, the humiliation I had suffered during my wedding, the Brooks family's disdain for my past, and our exposure of their illegal actions. I presented her with all of the data we had acquired, including bank records, employee statements, and Mason's well-planned inquiry. Samantha listened intently, her eyes widening as the pieces fell into place. This is serious, she said, her voice stern. If your assertions are true, I can help you expose them. We will disseminate this information and issue a comprehensive report. I experienced a surge of excitement for the first time since the wedding disaster. Samantha's help gave me confidence. We would reveal the truth for my own advantage and the benefit of all those who had been impacted by the questionable actions of the Brooks family. Over the next few weeks, we worked tirelessly with the news station. As the story was set to break, I grew more and more conscious of the risk facing the Brooks family. My phone buzzed with notifications about new rumors that were going around the internet. It appears that the resurgence of stories regarding my purported history of gold dining is an effort to undermine my reputation. Anna, they're trying to discredit you. One day, Mason commented with a disturbed expression while looking through social media. We have to be ready to receive criticism. They will not intimidate me. I responded with vigor. This war is no longer ours alone. The objective is to demonstrate to everyone that they cannot get away with this. The moment for Samantha's report to air has finally arrived. My heart was racing as I watched the news in my living room. Samantha emerged, calm and professional, as the screen came to light. My heart skipped a beat when she described our findings. She continued, "Tonight, we exposed a local family accused of illegal activities in their business dealings." I felt a mixture of pride and dread. This was it. We were pulling back the curtain and revealing the sinister realities of the Brooks family. But then, just when I thought I was ready for anything, the phone rang. It was Ethan. "Anna, you must return home right away. It's crucial." He spoke in a strained voice. "What's wrong?" I asked. I can feel the panic rising in my chest. He pleaded, "Please just come home." I was terrified and rushed back to our apartment. As I entered, when I found Ethan, he was pacing with a white face. "What's going on?" After stroking his hair, he continued, "I demanded it's about my parents. They have been monitoring you. They're furious over the report." Before I could respond, there was a loud knock on the door. My heart was racing as I glanced at Ethan nervously. "Who is it?" I shook and yelled, "It's the police." On the other end was a voice. "We must speak with you." Suddenly, all of my concerns merged into a single idea. This was not something the Brooks family was going to tolerate. I pulled the door open. I prepared myself for the fight, knowing that it was far from over. As I opened the door, I saw 2 police officers standing there with serious expressions on their faces. "Miss Walker," one of them asked, "we need to discuss some charges related to your investigation into the Brooks family." Ethan stepped forward. The allegations he was demanding left a worried mark on his face. "Should we go inside?" The officer looked at the hallway before responding. I nodded enthusiastically as I led them into our living area. The weight of uncertainty hung thick in the air. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to talk steadily. "We received an anonymous tip that you and your friend may have fabricated evidence against the Brooks family." The officer explained. Observing my reaction closely, I felt a surge of anger. "That is absurd. Everything we have found is genuine. We have documentation proving that we have been following the law." The officer extended a hand. "We aren't accusing you just yet. We need to verify the accusations. We would like to see the evidence you have gathered." Ethan stared at me with concern. "Anna, they're trying to undo this for you. They're terrified." I inhaled deeply and concentrated my determination. "I'm not going to let them frighten us. I have the truth on my side, regardless of their wealth and influence." After the police had left, I glanced at Ethan, who shared my nervousness. "We can't back down just yet. We need to gather our evidence and be prepared for anything." We gathered all of the data, documents, and testimonials over the course of the following 3 days. My phone was constantly buzzing with threats and notifications from anonymous accounts that were attempting to frighten me even more. I refused to succumb to fear. The day eventually arrived for the police to return and collect our evidence. We thoroughly explained everything to them, including financial documents, testimonies from former employees, and proof of their illegal activity. With all the evidence, I could feel my heart racing with a mixture of panic and determination. After reviewing the documents, the police officers pledged to investigate the accusations against the Brooks family in detail. I knew that the battle was far from over, although he had taken a big step. The Brooks family still held sway, so I had to be ready for their retaliation. That night, I called up Mason. "I need your help. They will most likely strike back soon." I said, we would stay ahead of them. This struggle is not yours to fight alone. Mason told me that his words of encouragement reminded me that I had people who believed in me. The ensuing weeks felt like an anxious waiting game. Then an unexpected breakthrough occurred. Samantha got in touch with me to update me on the status of her research. All of a sudden, word spread that the Brooks family was the subject of a police investigation. The Empire was criticized as the story began to be reported by the media. I was overcome with relief. People began to show their support for me on social media by sharing their personal stories of standing up to injustice. I was no longer just a victim. I was an example of strength. In the end, the Brooks family was made to answer for their actions. Henry and Catherine were imprisoned for several crimes, including tax fraud and illegal exports, as news of their deaths spread. I was struck with a wave of righteousness. I had fought against the prejudices and betrayals that had tried to define me throughout it all. Ethan stood beside me, more powerful than ever. "You did this, Santa." He went on to say, "One evening you stood up and fought for what was right, bringing me closer." Knowing that love and support had been the foundation of my strength, I responded. I had changed from being a dishwasher to someone who took on strong opponents. I had my honor back and made progress toward my future. I became an advocate for those who had suffered similar injustices after graduating with honors from law school. As I stood on stage at my graduation ceremony and spoke about justice and resilience, I realized that my journey was just beginning. Even though the fight against discrimination in society was far from over, I was ready to face it head-on and show that integrity, loyalty, and the courage to stand up for oneself are more crucial qualities than background or wealth. Thus, my story continues with hope, strength, and the unwavering belief that love can triumph over even the most difficult challenges.